Sí? Hola, ara sí. Aquesta entrevista serà en anglès, així que si teniu auriculars o tal, we check the translation, please. Is it working? Thumbs up? All bé? Tot bé? Molt bé. First thing is we're going to reveal a lot of spoilers, so if you haven't seen the show, please go out. There's going to be a lot of bad vocabulary, a lot of fucks, motherfucker, whatever, so just be advised. Ladies and gentlemen, the man himself, David Simon.
Yo! Yo! Hey, yo! Check it out. Here it comes.
Something ain't right, yo.
Watch out, man. Look at that boom. It's packing. Here he comes.
Yo, son, come on. Yo, Omar coming, man.
Okay. What the hell is that? Okay. So my first question is a delicate question.
I'm sure.
But I have to ask.
I'm sure it's delicate.
We understand that you had to kill some people in The Wire. We understand that you killed Stringer Bell. He was a bad man, so we understand. We understand that you killed Omar Little, even if, we love that guy, but you killed him anyway, in a very bad way. But we don't understand this.
What?
You'll see. It's coming. Just wait for it. Probably it's coming soon.
It is a delicate question, apparently.
It's very delicate. Coming. Why you kill Sabotka? Why?
Labor.
No, why? Why you killed him?
Have you been paying attention to...
Yeah, but I don't understand.
What do you mean you don't understand?
Why you killed him?
Have you noticed...
Is he a bad man?
You're not getting it. All this time you've been pretending to get it. All the time. You've been nodding your head at all the big
But you
themes.
killed him. You could forgive him.
You know, you sound...
Let's just, kill him off screen. No.
Touched by an angel. He pretends that he knows why I'm doing what I'm doing, but he's just like every other viewer.
Okay, let me ask you another question.
Pathetic.
This is an easy one. What do you think about Donald Trump?
If he is elected president of my country, I will be requesting asylum in Catalonia or in the west of Ireland. Those are my two choices. A political asylum, I will be asking.
You think he has chances to win?
Everybody has a chance. I mean, anything can happen, but I think the numbers are against him. I think he's traveled an ugly road to a plurality of a minority party, and the numbers of people he's alienated are pretty substantial. So I think there's a ceiling to what he's doing. So at least I hope so.
You're not going to vote for him?
I haven't voted. Maryland hasn't voted yet.
Okay, but you will vote for him if you can?
I'm a Democrat. I can't vote for him in Maryland. It's between Bernie and Hillary for me.
So who's gonna be for you? Bernie or Hillary?
The secrecy of the vote is a sacred American tradition.
Nobody's watching.
It will be a Democrat. I'm definitely voting Democratic.
Okay, let's start with The Wire. There's everybody believes that The Wire was popular, from the third season on, but the real thing is in the States.
Less people watched it every year while it was on. American dystopia plays much better the further you get from America. It did much better in Europe, faster than in America, and then it sort of, the wave came back from. It was really remarkable what happened. It was a word of mouth thing, and we needed a lot of words from a lot of mouths of people from in Europe and elsewhere to basically say, "Oh no, that show you didn't watch, that was kind of okay. You should maybe take a second look at that." That's really what happened. It's really what happened.
So, what do you think happened? with The Wire really? What is it popular in Europe and not in the States?
I mean, we have a short attention span in America. We're pretty much the superpower with ADD. Do you guys know what ADD is?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have it in spades. But the other thing is, to be honest and to be fair about it, the show reveals itself after you've seen the whole. And after the whole thing can be evidenced, whether you bought the DVD sets, that's pretty much how a lot of people acquired it, was DVDs and later on downloads. Excuse me. And I think until it did that, people would say, I'm watching this show, The Wire, and it's kind of interesting, and people would turn on for one episode and they wouldn't understand. You can't jump in the middle. And I think it was very hard to acquire when people had the expectation that they were watching a series of episodes as at that time most television drama was, rather than a chapter-by-chapter televised novel, for lack of a better term. And so I think in some ways people had to, at that time, not anymore, but at that time people had to be sort of, this sounds more arrogant than I mean it to sound, but they needed to be trained to watch a show differently. And there was no sensibility for that when we were on the air at first. So I think it took time for people to catch up. But I think all the stuff that we've done is the same way. I mean, I think if you watch a little bit of Generation Kill or Treme or anything, you might think that we didn't know what we were doing. Because by standards of what a lot of episodic TV is, we're not doing it.
So the best thing that came from The Wire was your own entry in the big dictionary of fuck.
Are you going to drink any wine?
Yeah.
Just have a drink of wine.
But first explain to me that this...
No, first have a drink of wine.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to do it.
Okay. All right, enjoying? Right.
Good?
Good flavor?
Yeah.
Okay,
Do
now.
you want to try?
I've been drinking. Go ahead.
So...
Now, you have another question. Okay.
First, Dad, explain a little bit the big dictionary of fuck, because probably a lot of people here is not familiar with that.
Oh, I hadn't thought about it either when we did that scene, but apparently our use of the word fuck was so groundbreaking. In the course of human linguistics, we apparently carved out some new territory, because there's a book called The F Word, which is basically a compendium of how the word fuck is embraced all throughout the English language in all possible vernacular. And it's a real textbook of linguistics that I didn't know existed, but as a result of that scene and then especially the phrase I fuck.
Yeah, please explain the I fuck thing.
The I fuck.
It's fascinating.
It's a term I heard from Baltimore detectives. And I fuck is like, in America, a legal standard for when you can stop somebody and jack them up as a police officer or order them out of their car, is probable cause, PC. And probable cause is not the guy looked at me funny, or it shouldn't be. But in Baltimore, if the guy gave you an eye fuck when you drove by in your radio car from the corner, it was PC somehow. So, sergeants would always say to patrolmen, why'd you jack him up? And he'd say, he eye fucked me. Okay, let me teach you how to lie better. But so the eye fuck was something that I heard in every precinct house, and the detectives used to use it. They used to use it in a great way, which is, I heard one time Rich Garvey, a detective, say, I'm going out of the courthouse, I got a sentencing today, I want to get my ceremonial eye fuck. And because a guy was being sentenced for murder, he was going to get like 50 years or life for killing somebody. And the detective who had done the case, he wanted to stand at the back of the courtroom and give the guy a little smile as he went past in shackles, and hopefully the guy would glare at him furiously, and that would make the detective happy. So he said, I want to get my ceremonial eye fuck. So sure enough, the editor of that book of the F word, the fuck word, the F word, he called and interviewed me about like the origins of the world. When did you first hear? And he put, we made the book. We're in this reference book. I couldn't be more proud. It's very special to me.
So we were talking about The Wire, being popular years after the release of the show with wasn't on screen anymore.
You guys are going to love Treme in about 5 years. About 5 years.
That was my question.
It's going to be the shit. You're going to love it.
What do you think happened with Treme?
So sad. Did you like Treme? I love Treme. Treme is as well executed and as beautiful and as adult a story as I'll ever do. Unfortunately, the guys, instead of having guns in their hands, they had like trombones. It was a show about culture. It was what it was about. It was, it wasn't about what it wasn't about. It was about what it was about. And there are certain currencies that work in television. They work better than anything in the world. One of them is violence. The other one's sex. And the third is probably laughter, and sports. And nothing else really conveys in the same way as those elements. So you do a show about what culture is and what it means to the life of a city or to a society, and you're really dealing in terms of chefs and musicians and artists, and you have to you can't go into it expecting that you have an automatic buy with the audience. So we fought that to the end, and we got 35 hours, and we were able to tell most of the story we intended. We were able to get to the end of the story we intended, at least. Had to shave off a little bit, and it was one of the more meaningful things I think I'll ever do. But I had to have real expectations about how far it could travel as a commercial entity. So that's what happened.
So, but your next project, that's going to be the...
Yeah, the next project's about porn.
That's why we're here
so
today.
I learned something. The joke is, it's a show about porn, but by the time I get done with it, nobody will watch. I'll be the guy who makes a show about porn, and to use some American vernacular. What if you made a show about porn and nobody came?
Are you already thinking about how to fuck it up?
Well, I don't want to make porn. I don't want it to be gratuitous. The thing that, we've had a lot of discussions at HBO and among the people making the show, and the actors and everybody involved in the project about what we're trying to do and what we're not trying to do. And I keep coming back to the mental image I have of some wrinkled, middle-aged fuck wearing no clothes. He's got HBO on Sunday night turned to 10 o'clock. He's sitting in his, bedroom watching his TV, and he's just waiting for my television show. And I want to ruin that guy's night. If that guy has a happy night, I fucked up, because I made porn. Here I am trying to be philosophical about market capitalism and labor, and I think I'm making a show about what I'm making a show about, and this guy's jerking off. So I gotta think about him and make sure that I do everything possible not to deliver for him. So it's I'm trying not to make a show about porn that's porn, and I'll do my best. But
you said that to HBO,
yeah, and they said that's
it's
right.
not going to be Game of Thrones.
Listen, the truth is they've had a lot of shows pitched to them about the sex industry. You can imagine HBO has, and this is the first one that went to pilot and the first one that got ordered. So I don't want to make fun of them. They're not interested in. I'm not going to say they're not totally interested. There's stuff they'll do that is prurient in ways, but this one was not for that purpose so far. When the numbers aren't there, we'll see how they behave.
As a part of the audience as well, what kind of show do you like to see in TV? Because you told me that you don't watch shows.
I love The Honeymooners. Have you seen The Honeymooners? No. Jackie Gleason.
Okay, yeah.
You know The Honeymooners.
That's classics.
Yeah, it's classics.
But I mean, like one from the last 10 years.
No.
No.
No. Sopranos is great.
Okay.
Deadwood was great. I haven't seen a lot of shows. I don't watch them until they finish, and people tell me that they finish strong. I want to know that it has a beginning, a middle, and end, and that they knew where they were going. Because so many times I start to, there were times where I believed in a concept, and I watched for 4 episodes, and I realized there's a franchise here, but they're not. I don't know that there's a story that. They're trying to sustain the franchise. They're not trying to tell a story, and so I end up being like, well, that's 6 or 8 hours of my life I can't get back. So I'm a terrible TV viewer. I'd rather wait. I do to other showrunners what got done to me, which is when it's all done, tell me it's good, and then I'll go back and watch it. Which is how I watch The Sopranos or Deadwood or.
Do you have any kind of relationship with the other showrunners? I mean, I don't know if you guys meet and talk about
we've
shows.
had lunch. I've had enjoyable meals or shared drinks with some of them, yeah. And sometimes, like, some guys who we shared crew and we talked to each other about, you worked with this actor, is he reliable, or this DP or this gaffer. You call back and forth and find out. We all sort of see each other as brokers of information that can help each other. So I'm friendly with a lot of people, but like, I think I've known David Milch for a lot of years. My friend David Mills worked for him on NYPD Blue, and David Chase, I didn't get to know until we were both off the air with Sopranos, but I had lunch with him the other day. Really, really interesting guy. So
if you go back like 15 years or something like that, 2001, 2002, and you look at TV, you had The Wire, Sopranos, Deadwood, 6 Feet Under, Band of Brothers, all at the same time. You think we're going to see again this kind of quality in TV? Because there's a lot of people that said this is like the third golden generation of TV, but
I don't know that I believe that. More things are now possible in TV. There's a higher end than there ever was. The ceiling got broken, and you could do certain things because you got rid of the advertisers. The advertisers were, they made it a juvenile medium because you had to do certain things in order to have people not turn off the ads. The purpose of the television medium, when it had advertising, was to sell shit. And the programming was just the stuff they put around the ads. So the programming, if it was ever dark or adult or disturbing or argumentative or ambiguous, much like life, it was discouraging people from buying blue jeans and beer and Lincoln Continentals. And that's problematic. So it's problematic for the advertisers. You don't want anyone turning off the channel. You want them coming back. So you need to please them. And so it made for a juvenile medium. When they got rid of the advertisers on pay cable, other things were possible. That doesn't mean they always happen, and there's a lot of television that I think masquerades as being serious because it can be profane, or it can have some nudity, or deal with sexual themes, or have provocative violence. But I'm not sure that, like, at the end of the day, when you watch the show, that there's any there. And
do you think that's like a negative side of that? That there's like provocation without sense, or no.
Right. I mean, I think it's just, it deadens the impact of when there's all kinds of good reasons to kill somebody in a drama. I mean, the Greeks found that out. Shakespeare found that out. And death is a pretty good dramatic device. It's a pretty good plot point. But it means something when it means something. And if you have a show and you finish 4 seasons and you've killed 350 people, that's an accurate count of a particular. We're not going to say what drama. We're not going to say. But
you're going to name names?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
But that's an accurate count. Some of those murders, they really didn't mean anything. Some of that violence didn't actually mean anything. So I'm obviously not against profanity. But at a certain point, it's there for a reason, or it's not, or the reason isn't there. Everything has a purpose, or it doesn't. And I get the feeling that a lot of people mistook the new currency of modern pay cable for story itself, for actual gravitas. When they're all just tools, and they're all just storytelling tools that are in your kit bag, and you either use them well or you don't.
So you would say storytelling in TV is now better than 10 years ago?
I mean, there's good stuff on TV all the time, and there's terrible stuff on TV all the time. I think that was true 10 years ago, 15 years ago. You know, I don't know, maybe it's, we tend to remember the past, you know. The golden age of television had, you know, Playhouse 90 and the Honeymooners, and, you know, it also had My Mother the Car, you know. It also had terrible shit. We tend to remember the great stuff and declare stuff to be the magical age. When some good TV was on 10, 15 years ago, there was also a lot of dreck and a lot of successful dreck. You know, The Wire got wiped out in season 3 by NFL. Our ratings built the first 2 years, then season 3 came on. We got killed by NFL football, which started counter-programming on Sunday nights. And, you know, that's like, again, you're up against the Lions and the Christians and loaves of bread being thrown into the Coliseum. And also by Desperate Housewives.
Yeah.
You know, Desperate Housewives mopped the floor with The Wire. Don't ever let it be said that anybody was watching The Wire when Desperate Housewives was on. So, you know, there you go.
Did you watch the show, Desperate Housewives?
Once, yeah. I did.
What do you think of it?
I mean, it was entertaining. It was entertaining, but there was a guy chained in some woman's basement. So I was like, where does this go? And I watched to the end of the hour, and then I was done, you know.
But what's true is nowadays showrunners are the new DJs. I don't know if you agree with that. That 10 years ago or 15 years ago, showrunners were anonymous, basically.
Anonymous, yeah.
But now you're like DJs.
We were monogamous, actually. That's an old Baltimore police joke. There was a guy who came into the homicide unit one time. I just have to tell, the joke's totally off point, but I'm telling it. And he said, he was a witness to a murder, and he said, all right, I'm going to tell you what I know, but I want to remain monogamous. And I was in the room, and the detectives looked at me, and they said, man, that's between you and your significant other, you know? and he didn't know what, it was just this beautiful moment of miscommunication. So, yes, showrunners, we were monogamous once upon a time.
You were monogamous like 15 years ago.
Yeah, 15 years ago I was monogamous.
But now most of you guys are really, you know, like stars or something.
The term has become known, and it's just a glorified way of saying one of the writer-producers, because you need continuity in TV and long form, because you're starting the project and you're going for 3-4 seasons, and you know, that you can't have all the scripts written in advance before you. I mean, you know, you're getting biofeedback from the cast, and you may know where you're going, you may know why you're telling the story. If you got those things down, you're doing good. But there's lots of twists and turns, and so they need the writer. If it's a movie, you hand them the movie script, and they say thank you, get off the set. You just handed them the story. They don't need you anymore. So the director and the actors, the A-list actors, they control the medium in features. But in TV, they need the writer. So it's basically a glorified way of saying it's not the director who's controlling long form, it's the writer. So they came up with the phrase showrunner, which it sounds much more Eisenhower than it is. Much more Napoleonic than it really is.
Dennis Lehane told me once that you used to get crazy in the writers' rooms, screaming like, "What would Shakespeare do?" and stuff like that.
What?
What would Shakespeare do? And stuff like that. Is that true?
Everybody who's been to war wants to tell you that it was hell, and that everyone has their war stories.
So Dennis was lying, basically.
There were big balls of ego that were thrown back and forth in the writer's office, and there were casualties here and there, but everybody got up and walked away, and we're all still friends. So, the guys who fought the most probably were myself and Ed Burns, and At the end of every season, as we sort of nailed down the last episode, Ed would declare that we had ruined the chance to do something really good, and we destroyed the whole concept of the show, and we just missed every opportunity, and he was just disgusted. And he would need 2 or 3 months off, and he'd need to read all the reviews to be sort of back in a state of mind where he'd come back and we'd be friends to start the next season. And this happened 5 times in a row.
So I guess it has to be at the same time a challenge and a pleasure to work in a room full of,
It is, yeah. There's
incredible
smart
writers.
people in the room. That's good.
Plecanos, Dennis Lehane, Ed Barnes, Richard Price. How you manage to get the ego out of the equation when you have so much stuff?
You never get all of it out, and you don't want all of it out, because writers are, they're competitive, and that's good. And there was a healthy competition. Everybody wanted to show their stuff, show what they could deliver for the other writers in the room. There's a lot of respect for the, never mind the work you were doing at the time, there's a lot of respect for the work product of the people you're, they're all great novelists. And when Clockers came out, for example, I said to people, I said, this is the grapes of wrath. This is the grapes of wrath of the cocaine epidemic. This is a brilliant book. And so the chance to work on a show with him was a kick. And Lehane is an extraordinary novelist. And I'm in a writer's room now doing a project on the civil rights era with, I don't know if his name's, but Ta-Nehisi Coates, who's a very important writer on race right now, a very important writer to begin with in any regard in America, but also James McBride, who won the National Book Award, and Taylor Branch, who wrote the Pulitzer Prize winning the 3-volume set on the King years. That's the writer's room. That, me and Eric Overmyer and myself, we're the lumpen proletariat TV hacks, in that room. So it's exhilarating when and you don't want to bleach, you don't want to knock everyone down so that you want the ego, but you just don't want it to prey on each other. You want it to, everyone's got to leave room for everybody else to be right and also to be wrong. You got to tell a guy he's wrong, no, that sucks, and have him not fall apart in front of you. He's got to convince me it sucks. Yeah, it sucks. Okay, go on to the next idea. So that's a healthy, argument makes everything better.
So one of the things that I love the most about The Wire is the fact that there's no main character really. Yeah, I'm gonna drink. Okay,
come on.
Is that good? Okay.
The wine is.
Yeah, the wine. It's called Grapes of Wrath. Really, Las Uvas de la Ira. He insisted.
Oh yeah, me. Go ahead.
So one of the things I love the most about the Wire is the fact that there's no main character. I mean, there's 50 main characters, and you can just wipe out one of the characters from 2 episodes, and it doesn't matter. I think.
Yeah, the city.
Yeah.
Baltimore was the character. Baltimore was the center of it.
We have never seen that before The Wire and after The Wire. All shows have a main character, a central character, and then some collateral damage or whatever. But what was the first time you thought about not getting a main one, like a Philosopher's Stone, but going in a very different direction?
The multi-POV novel had become pretty standard in literature. I remember reading, and I read it in serial form when it ran in Rolling Stone. I remember reading Tom Wolfe's Bonfire of the Vanities, which, don't wince, it was a better novel. Not a perfect novel in any means, but it was a better novel than it was a film. But I remember reading it, and it basically was trying to tell the story of, sort of a political social dynamic of New York, of the real New York, that cut across racial and class lines, and it had its flaws, but it was a very intriguing experiment because you basically felt he was writing about New York. That was a novel of New York, and there's a lot of comparable books. That's the one that leapt into my mind when you said it, but it was out there, and there had been television shows that had done that. I sort of disagree that The Wire did it Hill Street Blues and St. Elsewhere did exactly that. And I didn't watch those shows I wasn't a fan of television at the time, but I knew that they were doing quality things because I'd seen enough of them, I would have been in my 20s, to know that, well, that's a more interesting idea than, Dragnet. That felt like it had a chance to say some things and actually did. So I think people had sort of marked that territory as plausible long before we got there.
It's a famous sentence of you. I don't know if you say it or not, like the fuck the audience. Did you say that?
No, I never said fuck the audience. I said to you in the car something, but I was being funny. I said television would be really easy if we didn't have to deal with a fucking audience. If we didn't need the audience and we could just write shit and have it be what we wanted to write and didn't have to worry about looking in the paper on Monday to see if anybody watched the show. Anybody could do it. It would be great. It would be the easiest and most gracious life you could imagine. So I was being funny. I was not actually saying fuck the audience.
But this is I saw it 8-9 years ago in a newspaper.
I said fuck the casual viewer.
Okay.
That was my quote. That's different. That was me saying the person who wants to go to the bathroom and make a grilled cheese sandwich and do the laundry while watching an episode of The Wire. Because somebody asked me in an interview, they said, what does your show have to say to the casual viewer who's not paying that close attention? And I didn't know what to say. I said, well, fuck the casual viewer. Who wants to write for that guy, That guy wants to have a grilled cheese sandwich. And that's an Americanism. What's the equivalent of a grilled cheese sandwich here?
I don't know, a bikini? Algo así, no?
Yeah,
bikini.
Okay.
Maybe, but if you go to Madrid, it's going to be mixto.
Okay, mixto.
They are really weird,
Okay.
Bikini is really more reasonable.
Okay. Well, they're having that. And, it's like, how do you write for that guy, And so, I'm writing for people who, I'm asking you a big deal. I'm saying, can I have 8 or 10 or 12 hours of your life, and I'll tell you a story? I mean, it's an arrogant premise to begin with, of everybody gather around the campfire because I have a story to tell. No, my story. No, you shut up, my story. You begin with every storyteller begins with a moment of considerable arrogance, of I have the better story, listen to me. So if you do that, my obligation is the story needs to make sense. It needs to be complicated enough that it's worth the telling in that length of time. If it's not, do it in an hour and get it over with. But if I'm asking for that much time, the story has to be worth the expenditure. And if that's my compact with the viewer's compact with me is don't fold the laundry, put the sandwich down, or make it before the show comes on. And
You're asking a lot.
I'm asking a lot. Well, I didn't get those people. They were like, that show's fucked up. It didn't make sense. But the ones who actually leaned into the television set instead of went like this, they got more. They got something. And by the way, it's not like we taught people with The Wire how to do it, because here comes Treme, and it's not The Wire, and I have a guy with a trombone instead of a gun, so I'm behind the 8 ball to begin with. And the first unexplained moment in the pilot, and here comes Clark Peters, and he's wearing a Mardi Gras Indian suit, and he's dancing down a wrecked street at night. And a lot of people went, what the this show, I'm out, And, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm not complaining. It's like the alternative is to make a television show where you know everything before, that's not a story worth telling. So I got no choice. I'm stuck with what I do.
You would say Generation Kill is another creature? I mean,
it's the same thing.
Same thing?
Different story, same logic.
How'd that work? I mean, it was good in terms of numbers?
No, I've never had good numbers.
No,
my numbers are terrible.
Never. But HBO keep calling you.
It's amazing. I've had the longest career of any. I don't think there's anybody working. I started HBO in 1999, and I've done 6 projects. 3. This is my 6th project with them, The Deuce, and I've never lacked for work, and they've paid me well, and we pass each other in the halls and still say hello to each other, and good relationships. And And I've never had an audience, so it's pretty. No, I mean, I get them after the fact. People come up to you years later, and I mean, listen, every U.S. Marine right now at Pendleton, or at Lejeune, or in Afghanistan, or on a float somewhere on an aircraft carrier in the Indian Ocean, wherever there's a U.S. Marine right now, some other Marine down the hall is doing dialogue, the funny dialogue between Ray Person and Colbert from the lead Humvee. That's become the Arlie Emery. You know, everybody, all the Marines a generation ago, they were doing the drill instructor dialogue from Full Metal Jacket, and they had it memorized and they would do it for each other. Now they're all doing Generation Kill, the guys in the lead Humvee. It's become so, but not right away. At the time, like, you know, even the Marines, I think, in America were going, they made a show about Iraq, fuck that, you know. I've been to Iraq, I don't want to watch the TV. So stuff takes time, and I'm not saying, people find it. If you can get it on the shelf in this new world, if you can get the show on the shelf, people will find it. I believe that. If it's good, people will find it. But sometimes you have trouble getting it on the shelf. So.
You screened Generation Kill in Camp Pendleton, right?
We did.
What? Can you tell me a little bit about that? Because
yeah,
I think
everybody from the rank of
Camp Pendleton is a Marine camp. It's like
it's in Oceanside, California. It's the home of 1st Recon, which was the unit that it was about. I would say that everybody from the rank of gunnery sergeant down liked it when they saw the episodes we screened. They were like, "Yeah, that was it. That's the shit right there." And everybody above gunnery sergeant just put their heads down and said, that was inappropriate. So. And that's pretty much the reaction to every show we do, is from a certain, you know, labor and middle management seem to get it, and upper management and in power tend to not appreciate it in the slightest. And that was true in Baltimore and everywhere.
So you used to be a journalist, so we lost a good one.
Oh, it's so kind of you to say.
So what do you think about the newspaper business nowadays? Here in Spain, we have an interesting perspective on that.
Well, I'm in favor of it. I'm not sure it's in favor of itself anymore. I love journalism. I think it's essential. I don't think, I always answer this, people say, oh, what you're doing, is it going to replace journalism? No. It's, you know, first of all, it takes $30 million to make one season of a television show. It's, you know, you're not going to cover a lot of ground that way. But more than that, these are polemics. These are arguments that I want to make about the world, and I don't mistake it at any point for first-generation reporting, which is its own creature and essential, and it's the grist on which, you know, it's the fuel for how we govern ourselves intelligently, or fail to. And it doesn't seem to be disappearing. Information doesn't seem to be disappearing because the internet has beautifully democratized opinion and commentary, and it certainly has allowed a lot more sort of initial tips and initial material in the form, you know, certainly videos. I mean, it's revolutionized something like law enforcement and the drug war. It's exploded it in my country in the last year because this thing. This is a revolution. You know, people walk around with these things, and the police now can no longer say, as they always said when I was a police reporter, it's my word against his, and I know how to write the police report. You know, and if nobody else was there, or if the witness could be marginalized in some way because of who the witness was or what the witness was, what his history was, you get away with anything. And now you can't. Now the phone is its own argument. So sometimes the internet has provided first-generation reality, but, you know, imagery can lie too, and imagery can be out of context as well. And so you still need the synthesis of people who are unaligned, who are paid to cover a beat every day to get sources to tell them what's actually happening rather than the front face of what seems to be happening. Reporters are more essential than ever, and there are fewer of them because the revenues, the one thing the internet can't produce, it can produce a lot of people who have a vested interest arguing about shit, and it can produce that a little bit of first generation video and it can provide instant social communication within groups. It's a brilliant democratizing thing, but it's not journalism. It's not producing a lot of really diligent, careful, especially on the beats that are like boring, but the ones we need, like, you know, like nobody wants to cover the zoning board. Do you have zoning boards here? Zoning, is that a Spanish thing?
Which one?
Zoning board, like what you can do with land. That's a big deal in American cities. You got to go to the zoning board. You want to put a liquor store here and sell liquor? You got to go to a zoning hearing. The neighbors get to say, no, we don't want a liquor store. You know, you're the reporter who covers the zoning board. It's boring as hell. You know, you can imagine, I'm covering the zoning board. Except when nobody covers the zoning board, you wake up one day and there's like a strip bar across the street from an elementary school where your kid goes. And then you're like, how'd this happen? All that's the stuff that's like disappearing in my country. The quotidian, we cover this every day because it's our job stuff. That there's no juice in that.
But we've been hearing, you know, a lot of newspaper owners saying, well, now we have public journalism, so we don't need.
Right, citizen journalism, right?
Yeah,
Do you have that phrase here, citizen? You know, citizen journalism. You know, like, what's a citizen firefighter? It's a guy with a garden hose. You know, what's a citizen social worker? It's a neighbor who listens. You know, it's an insult to. You hear that? It's an insult to social workers who have a skill set. They actually go out and intervene in human affairs in such a way as to be precise about helping a human being solve complex problems. They send people to graduate school for social work so they can do the job well. Citizen social worker is an affront to that, right? Citizen firefighter doesn't take seriously the complexity of actually putting down a fire.
I like citizen firefighter, actually.
What?
I can see a show in.
Even volunteer firefighters, of which they have them in smaller towns in America, incredible amounts of training and usually a stipend for doing it in addition to their other job, and it's an insult to the professionalism. But citizen journalism is like anybody can do this job, and I care, and I'm sorry, you know, I didn't know what I was doing on the police beat till I'd done it for 3 years. I mean, I was lied to beautifully by people for the first year and a half, and I don't think I ever caught on to the fact that the dope on the table that they were showing me at the press conference didn't mean anything. It took me a year of going every day and meeting people and drinking a beer at some bar with a cop who told me, no, that's bullshit. What you got to look at, you know. And the only reason I did that every day was that somebody paid me a salary so that I could, you know, buy a house and, you know, put gas in my car. And, you know, I wouldn't have done it because I was a citizen journalist or as a hobby. So the amateur hour, to me, is unimpressive, and it's producing unimpressive results. I admire journalism too much to say otherwise.
I don't know if you've seen Spotlight.
I love Spotlight.
So the director of that movie is a well-known well-known guy. I think you know him.
Tom McCarthy?
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was playing a bad journalist now.
Yeah, he was.
Don't you think it's a paradox, the guy playing a bad journalist?
And then won the Oscar.
In the fifth season of The Wire,
yeah,
wins the Oscar for a movie about journalism.
And one of the best movies about journalism ever made, yeah.
But do you think Spotlight, it's kind of they talk about the end of journalism. You know, we don't see this journalism anymore.
Well, how many guys are there at the Boston Globe now, and how many were there when they had the Spotlight team and they did that journalism? I mean, at my newspaper, there used to be 500 people if you included the evening, morning, competing editions, plus all the zoned editions for all the various counties around Baltimore. There's 120 now. So the city hasn't shrunk. The problems haven't shrunk. But the number of people actually reporting on the city and the problems is...
So that's a silly question, but do you think there's a solution to that? I mean,
the revenue stream has to be reestablished online. We're not going to be cutting down trees and delivering them to people's doors. That is an anachronism. So I'm very uninterested in preserving newsprint. But I'm also I'm interested in producing a revenue stream so that you can hire people so they can cover not just Donald Trump or not just the riot of the day or whatever the big headline is. There seem to be enough reporters to cover the immediate, where they're all running at once. There's plenty of reporters. Again, the guy covering the zoning board, he's gone. The guy covering the city courthouse is gone. The guy covering the labor beat and what's happening at the port, he's gone. They can't afford all those people. And that's what worries me. And the other thing that worries me is, I don't care about newsprint, but boy, I care about the newsroom. Like you worked in newsrooms, right? No. Did you ever bring back a story that wasn't quite there and you thought you had it and somebody older than you and somebody who'd covered it, he asked 3 questions and all of a sudden your story fell apart in your hands? Is there an equivalent for that on the internet? I've never seen it.
No.
As soon as somebody thinks they learned a fact, it goes up. Supposition, guesswork, 2 + 2 = 5. Some of the best moments of journalism in my career involved a very smart editor shooting it down, saying you don't have it yet. It happens in the Spotlight movie, actually. There's a moment where he says, you don't have it yet. You don't have it yet was the sign of a mature, healthy newsroom. Not that it happened, you didn't want it to happen every time, you wanted to get it, but the fact that stories had a standard that the collective wisdom of the newsroom enforced. That was a big deal. So, new newsprint, I don't care. We should all be online and we should stop cutting down trees. But the newsroom, the ethos of a bunch of people deciding we can do better or we've done well enough or now it's time, that needs to be preserved.
And you think that's possible?
Well, I believe in paywalls. I would like to see every newspaper stop giving their stuff to the wire services or to aggregators like Google and just say...
Are you saying people have to pay for news?
As if it's an actual product.
That's terrible.
I know. Well, they let the horse out of the barn door, but I think there's no other alternative than to say, look, we'll hire it's an argument for nonprofit too. Every dollar you give us, we'll hire another report. As soon as we get the money, we're putting it right back into product. The good news is, I can't believe this has devolved into an argument. These people didn't come here for journalism. But
yeah, they want to hear about journalism.
No, you want to hear about journalism. Yeah. Drink more wine. Drink more wine.
Okay.
Salute. They got to reestablish. There's no other choice. But look, anybody who's been to a business school will tell you if you don't have a product that you can charge for, you don't actually have an industry. You don't have a product. You're out of business. And incredibly, journalism has been proceeding on the basis of we can give this away for free. And they never did before. It was a subsidized logic that brought it, they may have lost money on circulation, but nonetheless, people were paying $10 a month, $20 a month to get the paper dropped on their doorstep. Maybe they'll pay $5 a month to preserve this institution that actually covers their community and to have it deliver news that's better than the randomness of the internet.
So let me change the subject.
Thank you.
Okay. So who decided to kill Sobotka? Who was
What?
the one? Sobotka, who killed him? Who wrote the killing of Sobotka?
You're really emotional about Frank Sobotka.
I'm really emotional about him.
You have a thing for Chris Bauer.
You made me cry.
You have a thing for Chris Bauer?
You made me cry.
He
really.
moves you?
So who was the best killer on the war room, on the writers' room in The Wire?
George Pelecanos.
Yeah?
Yeah, we always used to give him the penultimate episode, so he would kill somebody and make us cry. And we did. We cried like little kids when George would kill somebody. When he killed Wallace, that was bad. But now Wallace is a huge movie star, so it all worked out. It all worked out.
Well, Idris Elba is also a big movie star.
A lot of, yeah.
But
Not on my shows, but later.
they say it's going to be the next James Bond.
We tell actors, we actually say, you're working for blown deadline now. Come and see your best work ignored. We tell them, like, as soon as we sign them up, we're like, they say, oh, this is going to be great. And we're like, no one's watching this. On Show Me a Hero, I would say this. I said, nobody's going to watch this show. I would say it in interviews before the show aired. And HBO would just shake their head that I was, but it was true. Nobody watched it. It got great reviews. Everyone said they watched it. At cocktail parties, everybody watched it, but nobody watched it. And And I told this to the actors when we were filming, you know, and they would say, oh, the scripts and this and that, and people are going to, I remember saying to Winona Ryder, I said, you're now working for Blown Deadline Productions. You know, you're see how you like having your work ignored. You know, this is a whole new framework for acting. It's gonna be fascinating. You know, you're gonna do really good work, and nobody's gonna notice. It's really, you know, it's fresh.
Somebody told me that in The Wire, when someone was about to die in the show, some actor, he or she didn't know that he was about to die.
I actually believe in that. I don't want to tell actors.
So when the day Stringer Bell was about to be...
That was a mistake. That was bad logistics. But it wasn't the day he was going to be killed. It was the day you publish the script, which might be 2 weeks ahead. You're always publishing a script while you're filming the previous one. So we were publishing the script that day, and I planned to go out to set and I had Idris's copy in my hand. Because you need some bedside manner, and a little bit of bedside manner. And I had it, and I was trying to finish some script changes on the script after that, and I thought, well, I still have time. He's not due to come to set, to the makeup trailer, for another hour, so I thought I have some time. And all of a sudden, my phone rings, and it's Idris, and he's read the script. So another actor had gotten the script the day before, and had called him up. So he knew before I was able to. So that was famously like, yeah, I found out. Nobody even told me I was dead until I read it. But that was a mistake. That was a logistical mistake. Most of the time, you would have your actor's script, and at the beginning of the distro, you'd come to the trailer and you'd say, I have good news and bad news, and you're off and running. But the reason not to do it like months in advance is even the best actors, you tell them your character has 3 episodes, 4 episodes, 5 episodes to live, and suddenly everything becomes fraught in a way that life isn't. This is the last time I'm going to be drinking. Or the second to last time I might have a glass of red wine. So actors start to do everything with a gravitas that you don't. They start to telescope performance because there's an old Irish proverb that says, God used to tell men the day of their deaths. And then what would happen is that as death approached in the years prior, the fields would go fallow and the cows wouldn't get milked and the barn door would fall off and basically nothing happened, nothing would get done because, man was contemplating the reality of mortality. So God said, no, I'm keeping that, you die when you die and you don't know. And in some basic way, that's why life feels as it does, is because we don't go through every day contemplating our mortality. But you tell an actor you got 6 more episodes to go, and they start thinking long and hard about their character's mortality. So there was actually a strategic reason to be a little bit.
You still do the same with people when you're about to kill them?
Yeah, and I still use good news, bad news. It's my standard line. The good news, bad news. The bad news is we're killing your character in the next episode. Jesus, what's the good news? The good news is we wrote you a hell of a death scene. Works every time.
So you expect to kill a lot of people in the porn show?
There was a lot of attrition. It was a tough life.
But you're going to tell them beforehand if they're going to have sex in the episode?
Actors having sex on set is not exactly like the good news. I've got bad news and bad news. Your idea of sex is not the actual production idea of sex. The production idea of sex is, that's a lot of work.
You had some sex in The Wire. I mean, no, you personally, your characters.
I don't
know if you had sex in the.
That show was so miserable. I don't think I had sex for 6 years while doing that show. It was a misery. No, I mean, we had sex in The Wire, but we weren't very good at it. We used to joke around. We said we're really good at like the gangster shit. We're terrible at sex. We're terrible at writing sex. So we were our own harshest critics. It's like when we would finally have a sex scene, it would be like a drunken McNulty showing up, and being as obnoxious as he could, or they'd end up screwing in the backseat of a car in the police garage, and we'd be going there, yeah, that's okay. You know, that's pretty romantic, right? You know,
So I think we're going to have some questions now. We're going to take some questions, just a few ones, if you guys want to ask something.
I won't take another question until you finish the whole glass of wine.
Okay,
right now.
the whole thing?
Whole thing.
Just one shot?
Drink it like an American.
Okay. That's it. Okay. Just, don't pressure me.
Yeah.
They're pushing me, I'm Catalan. This is a waste of money. Tell you.
I have a feeling this bottle of wine was not exactly, didn't exactly set you back. All right, that's one question. He's liberated one question right now.
Okay, so please turn on the lights, if you can, so we can see you.
Hi. So I gather, I gather from what you were saying that...
Let's see, where is she?
Here.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Gotcha.
So I gather from what you were saying that from the beginning you knew where The Wire was going, so you had the whole series in your head and you knew all the arcs and how it was going to end? Or you had a feeling?
We knew the endings and we knew the arcs and we knew what we were trying to say. And we had certain arguments settled, I think, by second season about how many different parts of the city we thought we could slice off. But within that, there are a lot of, the characters take journeys and they show you paths that you didn't think about. There's no other reason to have writers' meetings other than to, okay, we know that at the end of the education thing, we want this guy to be here, but all the journey of how he gets there is still to be explored. So you kind of know, you know the mile markers and you know where the race ends, but how the race goes is still to be discovered, if that makes sense. Does that help? Okay.
More questions?
No.
No, come on. Come on.
What?
You want to get me drunk?
You're the guy who brought the wine on stage.
Come on.
You know, it's like, it's the check. Does everyone know the rule about Chekhov and the gun?
Come on. Just stop it. Stop it there.
Does everybody know the rule about Chekhov and the gun? Okay, Chekhov famously said, if you bring a gun on stage, it has to be used. I didn't bring the wine on stage. You brought the wine on stage.
Me either. Was that guy right there, the one with the beer?
Well, come up here. Come on.
Yeah, drink some wine.
You can drink his wine, and
Yeah,
that
drink my wine.
counts.
Just one shot. It's amazing.
What do you? He like
That's the Catalan man.
He
Proper Catalan
sipped
man.
You're not done.
You're gonna kill me, man.
It's just one question. That's it.
Okay.
Question number 2.
Okay. Please, shot one question. I don't want to drink the wine for nothing. Okay, there.
Hi. Do you still live in Baltimore, or
Yes.
yeah? And has it changed since you made The Wire, or is it still the same?
Everything changes. It's still, the dynamics of the drug trade are the same. The violence is actually worse. In the last year, we had our most violent year in modern history in terms of murder and per capita homicide. A lot of things went wrong. It's very complicated. There's a lot of things that have gone wrong in the police department and in the wake of a lot of this. We had I don't know if you know, we had an uprising and riot based on a death in police custody last year. That was a big deal. The Freddie Gray death in the back of a police wagon resulted in at first protests that were entirely legitimate, and then one night of rioting that was, quite disturbing. There are other things that are good trends, which is to say, after losing population, we lost about a third of our population between 1950 and maybe 3 or 4 years ago, from about 900,000 down to about 620,000. And for the first time in a long while, we started gaining population. And the city has been sort of identified as one of the least expensive living alternatives between in that sort of East Coast corridor between Washington and New York. So suddenly we have hipsters, and we have, God bless them, they're tax base. We have really good new restaurants.
Did you just say, God bless hipsters?
God bless hipsters.
That's the headline, guys.
Listen, anybody who's tax base, you want to bring a bit, you want to come live in my town.
Shame on you, God bless hipsters.
I have a lot of empty row houses. I'll take anybody who wants to live in Baltimore. I'm sorry, I'm not.
Donald Trump?
No, sorry. I don't have to worry about him living in Baltimore. But I guess what I'm saying is, I'm vested in Baltimore. I want it to succeed. I live there. My child goes to school there. I vote there. I believe in it. The Wire was not an argument against Baltimore, and I was distressed when a lot of people thought it was. So there's some good news, and you should come and visit. The city's a lot of fun. And The Wire wasn't about all of Baltimore. It was about the America that got left behind, and it could have been written in any number of post-industrial American cities. It spoke to what's happened in West Chicago or East St. Louis or North Philadelphia. So I don't mean to suggest for a minute that every block is vacant row houses, because it's not. But we have those problems, and they're real. And the only way you get to start solving them is if people come back to the city. And that had just started in the last few years. We started gaining population again. So there's reason to hope. But yeah, all the attendant urban problems you saw on The Wire are still there.
Can I have one question without wine? Please. Come on.
Okay, the fourth question is wine. Third question is free.
Okay.
It's because I'm a giver. I'm a giver, Tony. I give and I give.
Aquí arriba. Hi. Hi.
Okay.
Ya. Quería preguntarle, ¿cómo conjuga el deseo de ofrecer al espectador 2 horas o 1 hora entretenida con el hecho de que muchas de sus historias no se entienden hasta acabar la temporada completa o acabar incluso la segunda o tercera temporada?
How do you deal on trying to offer an hour of entertaining, to the audience, with the fact that most of your stories you can understand them until you finish the season?
Right. I don't know the answer. Your question is entirely precise and correct, which is, how do I get people to watch an hour when they're not going to know whether it was worth it until the end? I haven't figured that out yet. It's why I don't have an audience. It's why people are coming up to me now and going, they said Treme sucked, but I actually watched all of it. It wasn't bad, And I'm like, you can't help me now. It's 3 years too late. Where were you when I didn't have an? I have not figured that out. If I pretend that I'm using the same dynamics as a multi-POV novel, and I don't want you to know about, I don't want you to acquire the meaning of the story until you've read the book, then I can't very well complain if I can't hold you for chapter 3. If you don't have absolute faith that I'll get you there, and you're just watching it, and you find the story to be displeasing or uninteresting, I lose you. And I've not figured out, and I don't think anyone has. I can either start making it more like a TV show, in which case, I want to kill myself just because that's like I'm making TV shows to make TV shows, or I can accept the fact that this has a cost. And when I complain about it, I'm not really complaining because I chose this. I chose to make it the way I chose to do A and not B, so I can't complain if the wages of A are I'm going to lose. I'm not going to have I'd like to have more of an audience. I'd like to make my margins a little bit better, but I've not figured it out.
Okay, we're gonna take one more question. Okay, yeah. Is that okay?
Yeah, nobody in Baltimore ever got drunk on wine, ever. Ever.
Okay.
Not in the history of wine or Baltimore.
I'm gonna drink that for you guys. Is there a fourth question? Okay. Fucker.
Hello.
Like a man, you did that.
David, here. In the corner.
Oh.
Here.
The corner.
Yeah.
Hi.
In your new series, The Deuce, with James Franco, it's going to be a trouble having James Franco play the twin brothers. Like, to have him, like, get a mentality about a character and get another mentality if it's going to be also a POV series.
He is playing brothers. He's playing twin brothers. They're based on real two characters who were essential in the creation of the, and sort of maintenance of the sex industry in New York, two Italian brothers. And I watched him do it in the pilot, and it was pretty. There was one scene where the brothers are facing each other in a bar and having an argument, and so you had to film one side, then the other, then you had to, you know, by trickery, by all the magic we can possess, put it together and have it work. And it turned out great, and it was two distinct characters. I was very relieved because it's a trick, and it requires him to have real focus and real. He needs to really attend to the fact that these are separate people, and he's a very strong actor. I mean, the rap on James Franco, I'll be honest, I'll be blunt about it, is that he's doing 14 different things at once, and he never sleeps. And you know, like if you don't hold his interest on a project, you know, one day you look over and he's just sleeping in the chair when like wake James up because we got to film this scene. And I can't say that he wasn't involved in 14 different things, because he is. But he came to set every day, and man, he had it nailed. I mean, he never blew a line. He was astonishingly on point. So I came out of the pilot relieved, because I'd heard all this, like, you know, you got to get his attention, you got to hold his attention, you got to make sure he's in the right town, you know, on the right day. He's pretty tricky logistically, you know. There was one weekend where, like, can we put him up early on Monday? Can he shoot early Monday? When's he getting back from? Where is he now? And we found out he was having a bar mitzvah. Seth Rogen was throwing him like a comedy bar mitzvah in L.A., and he was being bar mitzvahed for charity. So he got back in time. He got back on Monday, and I said to him, a bar mitzvah? And he went, it was for charity. I was like, did you actually do any work for the bar? Did you read from the Torah? Did you do any actual Judaism? He's like, a little, you know. So, but that was like, you know, when you look down and you realize, I might not be able to shoot with my lead actor because he's at a bar mitzvah, and it's his bar mitzvah, and he's not Jewish. You know, come on, that's not fair. But he got the work done, and it's great. I mean, the pilot, they ordered the show because the pilot was good. So
sorry, we have to finish here, basically because I'm drunk. So thanks for coming.
One more question. We still have wine left. All right.
Is there another question?
We'll take one without wine.
Okay, thank you. You're so generous.
Like I say, I'm a giver.
Gràcies. Heu dit que les morts reforcen molt la història de les sèries, i ja estic d'acord, jo ho he viscut, però a Treme, en concret, la desaparició o mort o suïcidi de l'actor John Goodman, no ho veig tan clar. Per què mateu o per què es suïcida John Goodman?
Why did you kill John Goodman in Treme? Why did you kill us?
Right. We killed him because...
Spoiler!
I'm sorry.
Let me ask.
I do know this. I have good news and bad news. Go ahead. Yeah, that's it.
Who saw Treme? Who has seen Treme? Oh, fuckers.
Yeah, you know what? It's
You
really
lucky
sweet
bastards.
because in America, like 4 hands would go up. You know? And they'd all be from Louisiana. So, yeah.
So why did you kill him? Vodka and then John Goodman.
Right. I mean, we were really attendant on the actual post-Katrina history of New Orleans, of what happened after 80% of that city went underwater. And one of the things that did happen was there was an incredible epidemic, for lack of a word, of depression. And there was a rise in the suicide rate that was profound. And we actually based his suicide on the death of a noted documentarian filmmaker who took his own life. He'd lost his house and he'd lost all of his footage of a project that he'd been working on for years. And it wasn't quite just the storm, because nobody actually kills themselves just because of a natural disaster. He was having trouble finishing a film, the film that he'd been working on for years, and he was blocked creatively, and he had a lot of other issues, and then the storm finally was the triggering effect, and it was one suicide of many in the months after the storm. And we wanted to honor the fact that there was this incredible depression that the city had to contend with, and you saw it in the lives of a lot of people who had to try to pick themselves up. And so we wanted to play that with one of the characters. And the idea of a writer who had written a couple novels, one of them well received, the second one maybe not so much, and was trapped inside of a book he couldn't finish. Seemed to be analogous to the story we were trying to recreate with the filmmaker. And it also seemed like the idea of that emotional cost of starting over, that some people were unable to do it. A lot of people, not only was there a rise in suicide, significant rise in suicide after the storm, but a lot of people left and never came back. They couldn't bear to start over again, or they tried and they gave it a few months, and then they ended up in Houston or Atlanta or somewhere else. So there was some character that had to do that, and it seemed right, and we told him that was one where he knew in advance. The actor knew that he had one season. Although the show was so much fun to film in New Orleans, and it was such a vibrant crew and cast, and we were having such a good time that at the end, John Goodman said, maybe I could be his twin brother, and I can come back. And he actually said that, and we said, John, we'd love that, but I've got good news and I've got bad news. So, thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, motherfuckers, David Simon.